Well, today we've come together to talk about a very, very important subject that involves so many different sports, but today we're going to be focusing on equestrianism, and that is concussion. Martin, you had an extraordinary career. Were there points in that stand out for you in terms of head injury?
Yeah, I think whether you compete at the highest level or you ride horses in general, in any form of equestrian sport, I think there's a bit of a stigma for people to say, hold on a second, I'm not getting back on that horse and I need time to refocus. I think people just get on with it. And I know personally myself, so I was injured. I injured my knee a year and a half ago. That's ended my career. But I remember on the day I fell, immediately, I was knocked unconscious for about 5 minutes, and immediately all I could think about was covering that up. And a friend of mine who woke me up on the gallop, the first thing I did was tell him not to tell anyone, because I was due to ride in a $4 million race 2 weeks later. And I think I don't want to be hypocritical and try and tell people that you need to not do that, because I did it myself. And, obviously I didn't ride because of my knee, and I haven't ridden since. But I think what was key for me is I underestimated how much it affects you later on in life, because I'm obviously retired now and I'm trying to make my own way in the media world and punditry, and I forget so much now. So maybe in the past, if I could go back to talk to myself 10 years ago, I'd say, look, you've had another bang on the head, take some time out, because it does affect you long term when you're finished, when you're out of the saddle. And I'm kind of learning the hard way a little bit, and maybe I should have respected concussion more than I did when I was competing.
Mm. But Tom, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because, as a jump jockey or a flat jockey, you're essentially a freelance, aren't you? The structure of the jockey's employment makes it very difficult to look after yourself.
There's definitely an element of that. And I think it's not so much actually the financial strain of that, it's the fear of losing opportunities and losing good rides. Martin put it so well, when he's lying there, your first thought is, and it's not the magnitude of the race, it's you don't want to let an opportunity to ride in one of those big races. It doesn't matter how successful you are, there's only so many opportunities of actually winning those sort of races.
Then there is always great talk in that there's such camaraderie in the weighing room, and for us, that bond is very important. But then there's also this competitive edge, so it's quite a difficult one for you, Kev. If you saw Harry and you thought, he doesn't seem quite right.
At the end of the day, it's Harry's health and well-being at the end of the day. As he said, you only have one head, and I know it might come across like you're trying to do the other lads dirty, but at the end of the day, you're only doing them a favour.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is when you are younger and you're getting into it and you're getting going. It's a lot of it trying to prove yourself and trying to prove that you are as tough as everyone else and you can take a fall as well as everyone else. And if you are concussed, well, it's fine. And if you've got you're just sore, you just sort of carry on.
For people who don't ride in races every week and who ride on a more casual basis, this is still something that's relevant to them, isn't it? And for a lot of people in society listening to you guys, the acceptance of concussion being the norm is almost quite shocking.
The weirdest thing I found having delayed concussion is you think you're absolutely fine until someone asks you a question. You can perform anything, absolutely. You're going around on autopilot, but if you're stood watching somebody, you can very happily go and make a cup of tea. But you might be doing things out of the ordinary, like repeating yourself or repeating certain actions, certain movements. But you, in your own mind, you're absolutely fine. So when people start picking up on it, your first reaction is, what is the problem? And then, as that fog starts to lift, you suddenly realise, crikey, yes, I've had it. And that's the really scary bit, is that you go from thinking everybody else is why am I being pulled in here? I'm absolutely fine, and you're really not.
You know what I think? Sorry to interrupt. You know what I think is quite frightening when I think about it over the years is how many. So we were lucky when we were competing as doctors and colleagues on hand, and you straight away. It's frightening to think how many staff who are just riding out in the mornings, exercising horses, have falls, and then they're actually okay, yeah, and they get straight back on the horse. How many of them have just got back on and rode concussed and not knowing?
I was riding out a yard one morning and a lad had a fall in first lot, and he wasn't knocked out or anything, but he got back to the yard and he was just a bit dazed and he just wasn't himself and he was really off balance. So I went to the trainer, I said, look, I don't think he should ride again today. So he managed to then just sort of sit out the rest of the morning. But it's getting trainers to try and identify those simple symptoms and say it may be that he wasn't actually concussed, but at least then you're not putting him or anyone else at risk by him riding another lot. And it's identifying it and getting the trainers to see it as well.
You've got to be feeling really brave, haven't you, to go to the trainer?
I was just going to say, and I think the difference with that is if you break your arm, a trainer can see you've broken your arm. If you go to the trainer and say, look, I've had a bang on the head, I'm a bit sore, he'll be like, oh, you look absolutely fine, you know, you've got a favourite tomorrow, why do you not want to ride it? Well, if you don't want to ride it, someone else will ride it. And then you're going, oh.
And then you lose it
And
again
then,
with
yeah,
it.
exactly. And then you're thinking, oh, God, you're panicking then because you don't want to ruin the trainer's relationship and not ride the horse.
The other side of the coin, though, if you ride knowing you've got symptoms of concussion, you're not riding at your best, are you?
No,
You could lose rides and potential because you're going to ride like an idiot.
And Kev, also, I think, as an athlete, having the confidence that people, the team around you, whether it's Oaksy House, Jack Berry House, Jerry, have your best interests at heart and also understand that you want to get back to the field of play.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we're very lucky to have fantastic facilities here in Oaksy House and Jack Berry House up north, and Jerry Hill, like he's amazing. Like he really knows his stuff. Everybody's working together to get you back fully fit as soon as possible, but without trying to cut any corners as well, you know. So I think we are very lucky in that respect.
I suppose my warning to people would be anyone who rides horses, if you is to recognise the symptoms and take them seriously, and then go and speak to someone who knows about them, and just get help that way. Ignoring the symptoms of concussion it's just bad news. Trust the people around you, trust the system, I think.
I think you both made that point in terms of relationships. A lot of this revolves around not just relationships with your family, but relationship with your trainer, with the lads that are leading you up, with the physios that are working with you, even the clerks of the scales, I would imagine.
Don't try and beat the doctor.
Don't try and beat the doctor, that's our main message. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I feel quite emotional about it, actually. It's definitely
Well, you've experienced it yourself, haven't you?
I have, and it's definitely, you know, if there's one thing you want to look after, I can tell you, that is look after your head, because the implications are so far-reaching.